Lambda functions, also known as anonymous functions or function literals, are a powerful feature found in many programming languages. They allow you to define a function without giving it a name, typically for short and simple operations. Lambda functions are often used in situations where you need to pass a function as an argument to another function, or when you want to create a quick, one-off function without the overhead of defining a named function separately. In many languages, lambda functions are expressed using a concise syntax. While Lua does not have built-in support for lambda functions with a dedicated syntax like some other languages, you can achieve similar functionality using anonymous functions defined with the function keyword. In Lua, you can create anonymous functions by defining a function without giving it a name and assigning it to a variable. Additionally, Lua's first-class functions allow you to pass functions as arguments to other functions, making it easy to use anonymous functions in situations where you need to pass a function dynamically. In the following sections, we'll explore how to use anonymous functions in Lua, including passing them as arguments and creating higher-order functions. The code snippet defines a function called apply operation that takes three arguments, func, x, and y. Apply operation is the name of the function being defined. Function, func, x, y, declares an anonymous function with three parameters, func, x, and y. Return func, x, y, inside the function body, it calls the function func with arguments x and y and returns the result. The main idea behind this function is to provide a generic way to apply any operation, represented by the func parameter, to two values, x and y. By passing different functions as the func argument, you can apply various operations to x and y. This is a common pattern in functional programming and can be useful for creating more flexible and reusable code. Next block of code defines a function named add that takes two parameters, x and y, prints a message, and returns the sum of the parameters. The third block of code creates a function called add_anon using an anonymous function. The function does the same thing as the previous one. It adds two numbers together and prints a message. The key difference is that this function is assigned to a variable add_anon using the local keyword. Unlike the named function in the previous block, this function doesn't have a name itself. It is assigned to a variable instead, means it is an anonymous function. They are often used as arguments to other functions, especially when you need to pass a small piece of code as a parameter. This is commonly seen in scenarios like event handlers, callbacks, and higher-order functions. Additionally, anonymous functions can be useful when you want to create a function on the fly without giving it a specific name, especially if the function is only going to be used in a limited scope. They can help keep the code concise and focused. At last, the code calls a function named apply operation twice. Once with the add function and once with the add_anon function. It passes two numbers to each function and prints the result along with a message. A higher-order function is a function that can take other functions as arguments and/or return functions as results. In the provided code, apply operation becomes a higher-order function because it accepts a function, either add or add_anon, as one of its arguments. This allows apply operation to operate on different operations dynamically, making it more versatile and reusable. By passing either the add or add_anon function as an argument to apply operation, we are essentially giving apply operation the ability to perform different operations depending on which function is passed to it. This flexibility is a hallmark of higher-order functions, allowing for more modular and abstracted code. It is quite common to use anonymous functions with higher-order functions in Lua. Anonymous functions provide a convenient way to pass short, simple pieces of code directly as arguments to higher-order functions, without the need to define named functions separately. This practice is particularly useful for scenarios where the function being passed as an argument is only needed in a specific context and does not warrant a separate declaration. You can use named functions in the same way as anonymous functions when working with higher-order functions. The choice between using a named function or an anonymous function often depends on factors like code readability, reusability, and personal preference. Using a named function might be preferable if the function being passed as an argument is more complex or if you plan to reuse it in multiple places within your codebase. It can also make debugging easier since named functions provide more descriptive stack traces. On the other hand, anonymous functions are convenient for short, one-off operations that do not warrant a separate function definition. They can help keep the code concise and focused, especially when the function's purpose is clear within the context where it is used. Ultimately, both named and anonymous functions have their place in Lua programming, and the choice between them depends on the specific requirements and style preferences of your codebase.